Hello and welcome to the Side Netting podcast, where each week we'll discuss the latest goings on in the world of football, play a couple of games, and I'm almost certain go off on some tangents. I'm joined as always by my cousin, my friend, and most importantly, my co-host, Kieran Burke. Kieran, how are we getting on?
Good afternoon. We're getting on very well. I've probably had a bit more sleep than yourself after your exploits at the football yesterday.
Yes, I did have I don't even know words to describe the fact that I was at England winning a World Cup semi-final. I'm going to be at an England World Cup final. I've not quite got my head around that fact at the minute. But yeah, last night, as we are recording this last night, England played Australia in the Women's World Cup semi-final, which they won 3-1, as myself and the 4 other English people, it felt like, in the ground were severely outnumbered last night. And I don't know if you can hear in my voice, it maybe took a small bit of a hit during that game.
We love to see it. We really do love to see it. And I'm saying you probably got less sleep than me, but the fact I've got a 1-month-old newborn, maybe you didn't get less sleep than me. But that's fine margins, I think. Fine margins.
Games are won on fine margins, as they say, Kiss.
That's it, exactly. So, speaking of the game yesterday, obviously you were there. Let's hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so before we get into the game itself, I think there's one crowd point that I really wanted to bring up because it was maybe a highlight of the whole day. So the game just started. We're a couple of minutes in. There's like the level of which we were outnumbered. I think in the whole stadium, if I was to hazard a guess, it'd be like 200-300 England max, a couple hundred, and the other 75,200 were Australia. So where I was sat, there was like Australians all around me. I saw an English fella sort of down a couple of rows to the left, 2 English women dressed as lions down to my right, and behind me, these Australian girls kept shouting disgraceful things about English institutions. I got fuck fry up bellowed into my ear about 5 minutes into the game.
They've clearly not had a good fry up.
They've got to change the game here, kids. Like, if you're going for, as I was turned around and said to them, there's so many things you can go for. Why go for the fry? They said fuck fry up and fuck the BBC. That was the two institutions that got pelters from these girls last night. But after the England goal, I went up, I cheered, I went mental, and then the Australia goal came. I was like, oh shit, this isn't going to go well.
Simmer down.
Yeah. And then the second and third goal went in and, as I say, the voice was gone. But the game itself, the first half, it felt like Australia just set up to defend. England managed to batter them down with a beautiful Ella Toone finish. They were just all over them that first half, sort of wearing down that defence. Setting up that defensively really was Australia's undoing, as it similarly was England in the second half, to be fair. We sort of looked like we were trying to defend a 1-goal lead instead of going for it and going at them. And Australia really deserved the goal. They're probably the better team up until that goal came in. And probably for the next, I'd say 5-10 minutes after that, it was getting really nervy. They had chances. They fortunately didn't take their chances. Jess Carter, Millie Bright, Alex Greenwood in the defence. Jess Carter especially, for me, had a phenomenal game. Mary Earps did what needed to be done, aside from the goal. But that was just a Sam Kerr moment of magic that she's been building up the whole tournament. It's been a bit devastating for her. She hasn't been able to play, and so she started her first game that she had started. She obviously played against France, and that was always going to happen. That second goal in the game,
inevitable.
She is
like
inevitable.
Thanos himself,
the Aussie Thanos.
Yeah, the Aussie Thanos. It was good for her to have that moment, but obviously I'm glad the Aussies took a beating, and the girls are in the final. Yeah, good game. I caught the majority of it. I had a work call very briefly in the first half, so I watched up to about half hour. Then I missed from 30 minutes to half time, which I believe's when Ella Toone scored a goal. So obviously I saw the highlight of that, which was an absolute cracker, and then thankfully managed to watch the full second half interrupted. And yeah, they pulled through in the end. I think that just bit of extra quality that England had kind of throughout the pitch. That bit of extra quality England had throughout the pitch, I think, kind of told told in the end. So yeah, delighted they got it over the line.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the key word. It was the quality. Australia pushed them sort of as hard as they could, but the difference, and it's not always been the case
Yeah.
this World Cup where there's been gulfs in footballing ability on paper hasn't necessarily transferred itself into the game. But I think, yeah, today, especially that last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, England just went that next level. And as soon as that Hemp goal went in, her and Russo, again, phenomenal. Like against
Class.
Colombia, against a partisan crowd, like against Colombia, they just turned it on and they were once again phenomenal. Serena Wiegman, I don't know if you've seen this stat today, Kieran. Serena Wiegman has managed in four major tournaments. Sorry, she's managed in four major tournaments, two World Cups, two Euros, and she has reached the final in every single one of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And hopefully it will be a winning final on Sunday.
Let's hope
So
so.
plans for Sunday, Con, you're off to the game.
Yes, so
Exciting
England
stuff.
against Spain on Sunday. Spain has been a tricky team all tournament, aside from like Japan games. Hopefully, we can take the spirit of that. But a tricky team all tournament, are surrounded by a lot of controversy with their coach and the number of players that removed themselves, and a few of them then went back to the team because of a lot of allegations against the coach of abusive coaching and behaviour, and it was stuck by RFF, the Spanish FA, stuck by him. So that'll be interesting, especially if Spain go and win. The reaction to that and those players will be its own little undercurrent of story. But hopefully we never reach that. But you said my plans. I'm obviously going to the game on Sunday, so I think try
Few
and
bevies.
try and keep myself at a level that I remember the game, and then the result will
Calm the
decide.
nerves.
The result will decide future plans.
Yeah, we love to see that. We love to see that. I'm sure that'll be a cracker to be at. Obviously, I'll be watching myself, but not quite the excitement levels that you're
Yeah.
gonna get to experience
A
on
nice little Sunday
Sunday.
morning
So,
slot at home though. 11 o'clock kickoff Sunday morning.
very nice, very nice. Probably
Yeah.
too early for me to be cracking open
Ah,
a few
come
bevies.
on. You and the little man can share a Corona or two.
He'll have a little tinny. He'll have a can of Staropramen.
Oh, of course. Sorry. I said Corona. It's a bit strong for him. We'll level back. We'll go
Yeah,
Star.
yeah. Let's rein it in. Rein it in. But yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to that. It probably will be the only World Cup final you ever see England playing live, I'd
Yeah.
imagine.
Well, probably the only World Cup final I'll ever see England playing full stop, but definitely live.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true. So, yeah, hopefully you bring the girls some luck on Sunday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will be getting full blame.
Well, I have the lucky outfit ready, the same outfit I wore to the other two England games I've been to when they've won. So we'll blame clothing, blame any sort of superstition, as is the ritual whenever they lose. But before we move on, I did want to just quickly bring up the Australian reaction to the World Cup, because being over here in Sydney, it has been one of the most insane things to witness a country that almost prides itself on not really caring about the soccer has been
Yeah.
transformed. Over the last week, especially, but just in general across this World Cup, and the Matildas game. I say the Matildas game, the England Australia game last night became the most watched Australian TV programme since they recorded TV ratings in 2001, with 7.13 million average viewers and a high of 11 million. For Australia, it's like insane.
Yeah, I think England weren't quite as far behind when the Euros was on, but you saw the reaction to that as a result of the Lionesses obviously winning the Euros. I know women's football was kind of a lot more established over here at that point than it is in Australia before the World Cup, but I think it was a similar kind of level of uptake in terms of it just absolutely boomed on throughout that tournament, which is
Yeah, I think
obviously
the biggest
brilliant to
difference.
see.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest difference is England has a football culture which
Yeah.
was a men's focused football culture that just sort of transferred towards the women, whereas Australia has no real football culture and it's just blown up, which is really
Yeah.
insane to have been able to witness in person.
Yeah, that's great. Just going back onto your lucky outfit then, so it's the hot pants and string vest again for the final, is it?
Oh, am I actually putting clothes on? Yeah, so the official outfit here, and the hot pants and string vest is a little party outfit for later. But the official
Oh, okay.
outfit is a white V-neck with some jeans and some what they call like van type shoes. That's been the
Yeah.
the lucky number so far.
I know for a few Arsenal games it was the tie-dye shirt, wasn't it? Which seemed
Oh,
to
the
bring us a bit
tie-dye
of luck.
won us the FA Cup.
It did. The infamous tie-dye.
Yeah, we'll see if the V-neck has just as much luck as that tie-dye number on Sunday. But moving on from England almost potentially winning a World Cup, which we'll, I'm sure, come back to on next week's podcast once it has been brought home. We'll jump into the Premier League, Kiers. So, first weekend of the Premier
Yes.
League last weekend. Is there any teams that sort of caught your eye that you really want to jump in and talk about now?
I think Liverpool Chelsea was an interesting one. Obviously, big unknown. I think both teams going into that game, and I did watch the game, and to be honest, both teams looked very impressive in spells. I think it's fair to say both have their defensive issues, particularly in the transition. They both looked very vulnerable, I think it's fair to say, which I mean is evident by the fact they were both going guns blazing out for Casado, and obviously Chelsea looked to have pipped Liverpool to the post on that, and obviously Lavia as well looks like he's on his way to Chelsea as well, so they're really keen to strengthen up there in that midfield position.
Big double
which
loss that
has
for
really
Liverpool,
been
though.
a big summer for CDMs. Obviously, I know Bellingham's a bit more of a box to box and a bit more advanced, but you got Rice, you got Casado, you got obviously Enzo Fernandez, who was in the last window, who went for big money. So yeah, it looks like the big money moves are the CDM's the position to play at the minute. If you want the big money moves, but yeah, I thought that was a good game, and obviously Spurs. Looked probably better than people thought they were going to. I'm still unconvinced about how they'll do this season, but I think for Spurs fans it will be nice for them to watch something other than absolute dire football every weekend.
Yeah, 100%. That's the big jump up for Spurs. I think they still look like they were maybe fighting from underneath a little bit in that Brentford game. They had to sort of keep coming back a couple of times in that Brentford game. But the football, the step up in exciting, aggressive, front forward football for Tottenham. They could be like we'll talk about vibey teams. I think it was last week. They could be right up there if the first game's anything to go by. The only thing was sort
Yeah,
of reviewing the Premier League after the opening weekend is we've got one game. We've got one game to go
yeah,
on, and that's sort of what you're saying there. One game's not enough. It'll be interesting to see how Spurs go over the next few weeks. They've obviously got a big game this
yeah.
weekend that will, I think, tell a lot.
Yeah, speaking of United, they really didn't look great. A typical Old Trafford decision there, not to
Yeah,
award Wolves
some
a
things never
penalty with
change, eh?
Vanana absolutely clattering into a striker there. So yeah, interestingly, going back to Spurs, obviously we put up a poll at Sidenet and Pod, and 86% of people thought Spurs would come below seventh, and obviously that was ahead of the opening weekend. So it'd be interesting to see how that might have changed on the back of that Spurs performance, if at all. I know I mentioned I'm still unconvinced where they'll finish, but
Yeah.
obviously they probably looked a bit better than people thought they might. So that's an interesting one.
So just one more last thing on Spurs. What do you think Spurs need to fully convince you based on that first performance?
They definitely need a striker. I can't see Richarlison as the answer. Obviously, a player that's looked decent for Brazil, but has never looked good for Spurs, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he had one Champions League game. He scored 2 goals, and that's the only good performance he's had in however long he's been at Spurs. So I think desperately, with Kane going, there's an obvious massive hole there. And I just think midfield-wise, they need an established, proven player just to come in and kind of shore that up. I know they've got kind of Skip and Basuma, I think, in there at the minute. And obviously, we were just touching on the big money moves for CDM. So whether there's a CDM they can go out and get, I don't know. That there's kind of a ready-made CDM in there. But I think, for me, and people might disagree, I just don't think Skip and Basuma are good enough, for Spurs to really do anything this year. I think that's going to be a defence that well, a kind of defensive unit with the two CDMs and their defence as a whole that I think will be got at a lot this season.
That looks to be their biggest struggle, and that could be the story of Spurs this season. That the attacking football is breeding goals, but at the back, that's the big danger. I think with Tottenham, we could be getting a lot
Yeah,
of Spurs scored two goals, but they also conceded two or three on the reverse side of that. But you said about teams that convinced me this weekend, teams that impressed me. I think there's only one
yeah,
team, and that's Newcastle. Just
yeah,
the way they brutalised Aston Villa at the weekend. And they sort of proved a couple of points that we touched on last week in the preview pods, where Tonali looked phenomenal in that game,
yeah,
in that midfield. Isaac, who, if he can stay fit, has the potential to be exactly what you think he can be and more over the course
yeah,
of the season. Wilson, this is a big point we touched on last week as an off the bench sub striker. I think this is something we're going to
yeah,
see a lot of Wilson this season. On for the last 20, 30 minutes, going at teams. It's probably not where he wants to be, but I think the impact he
yeah.
could have in this position, where you've got
Massive. Yeah,
Isaac running at teams, going at teams for the first 60 minutes, and then you throw Wilson on as well, the damage that can do on a team.
yeah, big time. Yeah, completely agree with that. They looked just relentless, really. And
Yeah.
Villa is a team that a lot of people, including myself, have tipped to kind of finish very, very high this season. And they just picked him apart. The first half hour, I'd say, probably before the Mings injury, was quite even. I think Diaby looked very good. I've got to
Yeah.
say for Villa, he got in a few times, and Newcastle did look a little bit vulnerable. But as soon as they kind of went 2-1 up, it was just a mauling, really. And Newcastle just quality all over the pitch, and yeah, I think they're looking very good. So I might have to revise what I said because I can't remember where exactly I had them. I think I might have had them sixth.
I think on the six, I felt
But
very smug as one of the few people that said they weren't going to finish in the top seven. I think after one game being played, I think my prediction of ninth to 11th, I obviously settled on ninth, but that's sort of mid-table, firmly mid-table. I think could be exactly where they end up.
yeah, I think so. Villa perhaps not. Although, as we said, it's hard to go off
Yeah.
one game, but based off that game, Mings obviously big loss for them. Looks like he's out long term, which is a big shame. I think perhaps not quite as strong as some people might have tipped him to. So we'll see. We will see in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah. One more last point on last weekend's games or the discussion in general. We said there a few times it's only one game. You can't say much off one game. For you personally, because I know for some people it's going to differ. What will be the point, the number of games that you personally get a really good idea of what teams are like, where teams are going to settle out being? Where do you think you'll be and this will be the way the season's headed?
Yeah. I think 10 games in is when the table really
Yeah?
starts to take shape, isn't it? I remember people saying about Arsenal last season. It just the marker seemed to get pushed back further and further every game week because apparently we still weren't good enough. It was 10 games, then it was wait till you're halfway through the season, wait till Christmas, wait till the tough period at the end. So, I think people kind of slide it back to fit their narrative. But I mean, probably sooner than 10 games you get a good idea for how teams are. But I think it's 10 games in where the table probably starts to take that bit of shape where you think, okay, this so and so are looking really good. I think 10 games in is where you've probably played a couple of big games as well, and you can kind of grasp how that head to head's gonna match up as well. So for me, I think about 10 games in is where you really sort of see how teams are looking for the season.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'd say maybe a couple of games before that, sort of
Yeah,
I'd say like mid between 5 and 10. You'll get a really good idea, and then it sort of revolves itself out and like firms itself. You'd say around the actual midpoint, but in terms of getting a good idea of what teams are saying, yeah, I'd say after
yeah,
5 to 8 weeks. But that's our discussion on last weekend's games. We'll touch on this weekend's games in a little bit. But first of all, let's take a step back have a little games break. Make things a bit more intense in the room, Kieran.
The lights have just darkened in the room and I felt a cold chill enter as sudden death approaches us. Well, not literally sudden death, but thankfully. But the game's sudden death, a bit more light-hearted. It got very dark.
Sudden death is approaching. Kieran is not making the end of this podcast. The loser of this game. Forget picking the song at the end of the.
God.
Forget picking the song at the end, Kieran. We've got a new prize. The winner gets to murder the other one.
Here at the Side Netting Podcast, the stakes are higher than any other podcast in the world, which is why everyone comes back.
Everyone keeps coming back. There'll be a new co-host every week. The highest turnover in hosts known in podcasts.
New description for the podcast there, Con. Let's get that updated.
Yeah, 100%. So, hypothetical sudden death aside, we're going to jump into the game of sudden death. So, sudden death will spin a randomizer wheel that's going to select us a category. Myself and Kieran are then going to go back and forth with answers that fit into that category. When a player is wrong or pauses, they will lose the point and the round. In each round, each player gets one answer check-up, because it's just myself and Kieran here. We don't have anyone checking the answers as they go. So you could, in theory, say a couple of wrong answers there, hope the other person doesn't notice. If it gets flagged up and spotted, then you will lose the round. It is a best 2 out of 3. And we've refreshed the categories, Kieran.
Ooh.
I know. So, the categories for this week are managers who won the Champions League or European Cup before that, stadiums that are not in the UK, the top 50 Premier League assisters, players that scored 5 or more goals in the World Cup, non-Football League football teams, so teams that are not in the English Football League pyramid, and active players over the age of 30. Before we spin the wheel, Kieran, I'll ask you my usual question. Any categories that jump out at you there?
No.
There you go. That's what we...
Hit and hope. Hit and hope as always, and pray that I get more than one answer so I'm not absolutely shamed and walk off this podcast with my head in my hands.
Well, let's find out what will be the bringer of shame. First of all, the wheel is spinning round, Kieran. I'm watching it go. Some beautiful pastel colours I've got in front of me. And it has landed.
Just don't get hypnotised, whatever you do. We need to finish the podcast at some point today.
I've just about stayed level, stayed prepared. It is active players over the age of 30. And every single footballer I think I've ever seen or heard of in my life has just jumped out of my head.
Same.
Fantastic. Do you want to start us off?
I'll go Lionel Messi.
Jordan Henderson.
Sergio Busquets.
Christian Benteke.
Jordi Alba.
Ronaldo.
Sadio Mane.
Neymar.
I'm loving the accents here. Fabinho.
Salah?
Double answer. Ooh. I think I might use my challenge. Are we saying over 30, right? So 31 and above.
Well, over 30. As soon as they've hit their 30th birthday, they're over 30. 30 on one day is over 30, kids.
It's going to VAR here. All right, I'll use my check anyway.
Okay.
I think he might be 30, but we'll go with it anyway. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mo Salah is 31.
Boo. Okay, let's jump back into it then. I will go with James Milner.
Harry Kane.
Danny Welbeck.
Danny Ings.
Mikel Antonio for West Ham. I don't know if he is above that. Oh. Names.
You don't sound sure, but I think he might be Romelu Lukaku.
Thiago Silva.
Oh, Callum Wilson.
I don't have any other challenges.
Here we go.
Virgil van Dijk.
Jamie Vardy.
Oh, that was a big old pause. You just got there in time, I reckon. Mark Albrighton. I don't know if he still plays, but speaking of that Leicester team.
let's throw it out there. Let's check up on Mark. Let's see what Mark Albrighton is doing.
The funny thing is, it's entirely plausible we've listed about 5 players each that are under 30.
Mark Albrighton is 33 and is
Oh,
currently on
brilliant.
loan at West Brom.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay, so back to me. I should have been using that time to think of players. Um, nah, I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out.
I'm glad you did, because I had nothing left.
Nah,
I've got nothing left.
it was gone. Got nothing left.
I was moving like Ian Beale there.
Moving on.
I just checked. Callum Wilson's 31, so
I just do
I think you
exactly the
got
same
it
thing.
right there. Right, 1-0. 1-0 to me. I'm really in a lead in these games in the pod so far, so this is uncharted territory for me right now.
And Mikel Antonio was 33. So we did quite well there, kids.
Yeah, impressive. Impressive ball knowledge there.
That was a
Must
good
say.
rally, that. Putting Federer to shame.
It was.
You know what they call me,
He
kids? The
himself.
bald Federer.
I've heard many a person refer to you as that.
Oh, they're all saying it. Okay, the next category is 5 or more goals in a men's World Cup.
Oh, this could be a tough one.
So I
Is this
think
in
you
a
started
singular
last.
tournament or just all-time World
No,
Cup goals?
overall. Overall.
Overall. Okay, that thankfully should help a little bit. Okay, shall I go first or what way are we doing it?
You can start us off. You on the last point. I have got a list to reference on this one, just so you know. So we're not
Oh,
bloody.
you little cheat.
Yep. And what?
I don't. So if I win this, it'll be a miracle. I will go Miroslav Klose.
Ronaldo.
Cristiano or Brazilian?
We'll go Brazilian.
Okay, I'll go Cristiano then.
Messi.
Lucas Podolski.
Gerd Muller.
Alvaro Morata.
Romelu Lukaku.
Oh, that was my next answer, you bastard. Angel Di Maria.
My friend and yours, Asamoah, the main Jan.
The main Jan. He's made another appearance on the podcast. The man's getting
He's
shout-outs
back.
front and centre. He's back. I'll go Gonzalo Higuain.
Nah. No. I'm definitely using. Higuain's not scored 5 World Cup goals.
Surely
He may have
has.
been linked to Arsenal 5 times in 5 seasons, but he has not in no world.
I remember he missed a sitter in a World Cup, so I'm just presuming he's played a lot of goals.
Oh, he's in the 5 club. He's in the 5 club.
Yes. Come on.
Okay, so is that back to me?
It's back to you.
Well, I'm in Australia. Timmy Cahill.
Oh. Wayne Rooney.
Landon Donovan.
Oh. I think I'm going to query that one. Although if you have a list, I imagine you've done your research, so it's probably
I've just got a list up. I'm
worthless-
not. Yeah, Landon
I'll
Donovan
query
is
that
also
one.
in the 5 club. Handily enough, he was down in
Ah.
that area as well.
Bastard. Bloody Yanks. I will go Harry Kane.
I will go Raheem Sterling.
I don't have another query, so I can't. Although he done pretty well in the last.
Yeah, that's what I'm
couple of weeks.
thinking.
Anyway, I'll go sticking on the English theme. I'll go Frank Lampard.
Have I queried you yet? I have, haven't I?
You have. This is just back and forth with no one. Maybe
Okay.
we'll throw in another query each, because otherwise this will just be us listing names and never getting checked.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. We'll have one each thrown back in there, and I am immediately using it on Frank Lampard.
Okay. Can we add in his ghost goal v Germany if he scored 4, please?
Only if that ghost goal was scored in our loyal recreation in a park near my house. Frank Lampard is not on the list.
What? How many has he scored?
He's not on the list. So he's scored less than 5.
Oh, you've got an actual list. Okay.
I've got the Wikipedia
Bastard.
list of players with at least 5 goals at the FIFA World Cup tournament.
That is disappointing.
Players we
Right, so-
forgot.
well,
Pele, Mbappe, Lineker,
oops.
Muller.
Bloody hell. Oh my god. You said Muller, didn't you?
No, I said a different Muller. I said Gerd Muller.
Oh, you said. Oh, so Thomas Muller's on there as well.
Yeah, Rivaldo, Neymar, Maradona. Oh my god.
Fucking hell, some absolute stinkers in there. Oh, how have I not got those? Anyway, I presume I thought Lampard. He's quite a attacking midfielder. I obviously underestimated England's shitness. So
I should say he's definitely on 4, and then that ghost goal was robbed.
Yeah.
Robbed.
Robbed. Right.
The final
It
round.
goes to a tiebreaker then. Exciting stuff.
You can tell your voice.
I am absolutely thrilled.
You sound like
To
Martin.
be
Sound like
in
Martin
this
Tyler after United used to
Arsenal
concede
goal.
a goal. Oh, and Wolves have scored against Man United. A great goal.
Jimenez has just scored a bicycle kick from 80 yards. That's brilliant.
Cheers, Martin. Thank God you're gone. The final round is
Speaking of
managers who have won either the Champions League or the European Cup.
Oofs. Okay. I think it's you to start this time, I believe.
Okay, I can start us off. Matt Busby,
Sir Alex Ferguson.
Pep Guardiola.
Jose Mourinho.
Oh, that was my next one. Oh, you've proper thrown me. Jockstein.
Oh. Brian Clough.
Oh no, you've really messed. Zinedine Zidane.
Oh. Carlo Ancelotti.
Oh, you prick. Gus Hiddink.
Oh. Roberto Di Matteo.
Oh no! That was my next one. Oh no! Oh, he's having a disaster. Claudio Ranieri?
Oh, I'm going to query that one. I don't think he has.
I don't have a clue. I don't know, Jeff.
I don't think he has. We'll have
You
a
just
look.
said 2 of mine just before I was going to say them. Oh, I just see the name Bob Paisley, so sorry, Liverpool fans.
Let's have a
Who'd I
look.
say? Claudio Ranieri. I don't have a good feeling about this. He's not in the list. He's not in the list.
Come on! I finally
Oh.
won a mini game.
Oh, you bastard.
Let's fucking go, guys.
Oh, Jurgen Klopp.
Oh, of course. That's a stinker. I'll be honest,
Oh.
if you said one more name, I was done. I'd exhausted all names.
Oh,
Do you know what? Names I hadn't even thought of prior were coming to me. It was quite
There are-
spiritual.
there are 2 on this list, both Liverpool, along with Bob Paisley, who I'm fuming I
Rafa
haven't.
Benitez.
Benitez.
Who was the other one?
It was Benitez and Klopp and Bob Paisley.
Oh, okay.
Luis
Yeah,
Enrique
you
as well,
probably should've
Barcelona.
Oh, of course.
Louis Van Gaal won it with Ajax in 1995. Fact fans.
Did he? Didn't know that.
Yep. Why I
You
lay
learn something
here
new every day.
in a ball, crying.
Finally, a victory for the man himself. I've finally done
Let's
it.
take a little
Beautiful.
swoosh.
Beautiful.
And we'll come back with a preview of this weekend's games,
Regather your thoughts.
our predictions, and some FPL chat.
Bah.
Okay, Kieran, on to this weekend's games. We've had our own games. We spoke about last weekend. We'll jump into this weekend. So we'll go straight into our 5 prediction games, and then we'll have a little chat on Arsenal, and we'll go into our FPL from the last week before we wrap things up. And you choose what is certain to be a terrible song that everyone will hate. So,
Oh, I've got no doubts.
first game on the list is Fulham and Brentford.
Yes. Yes.
Your thoughts and your
I've
prediction?
Yeah, I'm going Brentford 2-1. I think they look strong attacking wise for Spurs. Obviously, a little bit vulnerable at the back there, but I think Fulham didn't look great for Everton from the highlights I saw.
Yeah.
Leno, by all means, won them the game there. And Everton, obviously, poor attacking wise, which kind of cost them. So, yeah, I'm going Brentford 2-1.
Yeah, I'm going for the same score for a lot of the same reasons. Fulham got away with one really against Everton. Everton, who we'll jump on in a moment, my thoughts on Everton, who really surprised me last weekend, but I'll touch on that in a second. And Brentford, who look very fun again. Look like goals may not be an issue with the way they were at the weekend, I have them 2-1 as well. So we spoke about this team earlier. Spurs against Man United.
Now, I've gone a bit bold on this one. I've gone Spurs 4, Man United 2.
Ooh, it's gone
I can see
spicy.
a high. Yeah, I've gone spicy, and based on that, I'm going to make sure I watch that game. But yeah, I just think both teams vulnerable defensively. I think Wolves had about 23 shots against United, which yeah, obviously a Wolves team that many tip to go down. So if they can kind of get at United like that, I think Spurs, who looked pretty good going forward, I can see goals in that game. I think it's going to be one for the attackers, and I can just see Spurs just scoring more, to be honest. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. What have you gone, Spurs United?
Well, you really convinced me with that. I can't lie. I've got 1-1, but you've
Okay.
given me a really you've convinced me a lot there.
Get me on the
I
pre-match
think
preview for that game. Super Sunday.
fuck Super Sunday. This is the pre-match preview. Fuck Daniel Sturridge doing his stanky leg. We have me and you
No
saying
hate on Daniel
European
Sturridge's stanky leg.
European Cup winner managers back and forth. What more do you want?
I can confirm I was doing the stanky leg when I won that game of sudden death. So, you know, we're basically Super Sunday here.
I've never felt worse about losing a game in my entire life than hearing that sentence.
You caused this.
But yeah, I've
So,
gone. I've gone 1
anyway.
all.
1-1.
I think United are going to stifle them. I think Spurs are going to go at them and try and go at them, but I think United are going to end up stifling them. They'll have a lot of shots, but I don't think those shots will mean too much. I don't know what Wolves' XG was the other day, but I don't think it reflected the number of shots they had too much. So I think that's my expectation. I'd much prefer your game to take place, if I'm honest, an exciting an exciting goal fest than
Let's hope so.
a bit of a dull stifling 1-1. But United seem to be what I was saying in the preview pods. As we said earlier, you can't say much after one game, but they look massively meh. Spurs, as we were saying before, look exciting, look fun, look like they're going to finish in 8th. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. So I say 1-0, you say 4-2 on that one. Man City and Newcastle, the game of the weekend, I would say.
I've gone 2-0 Man City. Obviously, based on Newcastle's kind of absolute wondrous display, you'd expect goals there. But I can just see City, they just kill teams with possession. You've seen it before. Teams go into a game with City, you think they're on a good run of form, they're really attacking, and then City just come they just do what they're there to do. They pass the ball around.
Is this just you saying
They
your
pick you
PTSD
off.
from last season?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, bad memories. But they just seem to just pick teams off. They don't seem to really break stride a lot of times. Obviously, De Bruyne's out now, which will be a massive loss for them. But I just think they've got enough quality elsewhere. I just can see them getting over the line there. So 2-0 I've gone.
So for me, this is my exciting goal-filled game of the weekend. I've gone City 3, Newcastle 2. I think it's going to be two very good teams going at each other. Defences aren't yet solidified at this point in the season, which usually leads to your goal-filled games. I can really see it being like this. I just think City have the edge. I think Newcastle are gonna run them fine, but I think City have the edge, and they'll always have the edge on games like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got them 3-2.
Fair enough.
Next, we've got Aston Villa and Everton.
Tough one to call, this one. I ummed and ahed on this one. I've gone Villa 3-0. I've tried not to let the opening game kind of dampen my original thoughts on Villa. I think Diaby looked very good. It's easy to get bogged down with a result like 5-1. Doesn't always tell the full story, although Newcastle were very good. I just think they've got some good attacking players there. Diaby looked very good. I think Mings being out, obviously they've brought in Pau Torres over the summer. I think he'll just slot straight in there, and he looks a very good centre back anyway. So I don't think it will cause them too many problems. And Everton, as well as they kind of played on the weekend, which was obviously better than we were expecting, I still think they don't have that killer edge in front of goal. You know, you're still starting Mopé in big 2023. It's not looking good for you.
The year of our Lord.
I've gone. Yeah, I just can't see them scoring, so I've gone 3-0 Villa.
Yeah, starting Mopé in 2023 is almost as embarrassing as having Sean Dyche as your manager in 2023. It's quite a level pegging
We
thing.
had the Everton hatred last week. Is this going to be a weekly theme?
No. I'm saying all of this. I'm saying that Neil Mopé is one of the most bang average strikers ever, which is why he used to score the time against Arsenal. There's a direct correlation there.
Yeah.
And Sean Dyche is the worst active manager at the moment, and I have a real dying hatred passion against him. But I've got Everton to win 2-1.
Well, there you go. That's
I
a
think
turn up
last
for the
weekend, yeah, I'll do match analysis aside from the fact that Sean Dyche is a prick, and no matter how gravelly his voice can't change that. I was really impressed by Everton last weekend. I think if they can take one or two of those chances in front of goal, that's the big difference. That's the big thing with Everton, is can they take those chances that it looks like they're able to create. Like Fulham, we sort of had at that lower mid-table level. Villa had a massive struggle last week. Were shown to be very prone at the back in that game against Newcastle. I think Everton can attack that. The stats with Everton last week with their XG, their shots on target. They had 16 shots. They had 9 on target. Their XG was 2.59 against Fulham last week. If you can convert those, I just think Everton might not be in as much danger if they can convert. That's the big thing.
Yeah, that's the big.
I think they look to be set based on the first game. If they can convert, if they get a striker in, like I know either the talk is, or they confirmed Jack Harrison this week. I think they confirmed Jack Harrison on loan.
Yeah.
Which is one signing, but you need an out-and-out striker, someone who's going to go up through the top, and Everton could be a lot safer than expected. So yeah, I've got them 2-1 in that game.
Okay. Lastly then, what game have we got last?
We've got West Ham and Chelsea.
I've gone 1-0 Chelsea in this one. I think they just need a result under their belt and that team will look a lot more confident. I think they had their moments for Liverpool, as we mentioned. A few players in there looked good. They had some free-flowing play. Enzo looked very good, I thought, in the middle. Kind of everything went through him, and to be honest, I've watched a few Chelsea games since he joined and he's not overly convinced me. So that was the first game where you felt he sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck. Chelsea fullbacks, as always, looked very good. I think they're probably their best players, if we're being honest. Chilwell and Reece James. Them staying fit for the full season, I think massively determines where they end up. And Nicholas Jackson looked good. He got him behind a few times, so just needs to kind of have that killer instinct and start converting those chances. But I've gone 1-0. I think Chelsea will scrape it in a cagey game.
Yeah, I'm expecting quite a cagey game, but Chelsea to edge. I've got 3-1 Chelsea. Okay. I've got quite a cagey game. Chelsea will just break them down in the end. I think my thoughts on West Ham haven't changed since we discussed them last week. I don't expect much out of them still. I reckon Chelsea are going to grind them down 3-1.
Okay.
Yeah. One more game to discuss, Kieran, before we jump into FPL, predictions aside. There's one team that we've not really discussed, and it's a side netting podcast episode. We've not spoken about Arsenal yet. So we'll just dip in.
A turn up for the books.
Dip in a little bit, just maybe a couple of your thoughts on the Forest game last weekend, game against Palace this weekend, and of course that Timber injury.
Yeah, got in. He looked so good. Massive blow. But yeah, Timber aside, I think we looked good. I think there's been a lot of strange reaction to that game from Arsenal fans, as if we were absolutely dreadful and we've lost the game. So
blinded by the result.
Confused by that. Yeah, I think obviously we look comfortable. It's annoying more than anything. We conceded that goal and then we put ourselves under pressure for 10 minutes. But even still, we still look fairly comfortable. Obviously, when you're only a goal up, 10 minutes to go, the other team are lumping balls in. As a fan, it's very nervy, but they never really looked like scoring, I think it's fair to say. I think Gibbs White had that snapshot straight after they scored, which he blazed over, which was a half chance at most. And then we saw the game out. I think on the whole we looked good. Obviously Saka, what more can be said about the boy? Unbelievable. The amount of games he decides by himself is a joke. Martinelli, exciting as ever. Amazing assist for that first goal. Was glad to see Nketiah take his chance, which was positive. Havertz looked good for me. I think he kind of kept the game ticking over nicely. He wants to get on the ball, and I think aside from Odegaard, we don't really have anyone that kind of does that, drops in deep and wants to get on the ball. So I was glad to see that we've got someone else in there that will kind of be really brave and just come in and get the ball under pressure and look to give and go sort of thing. So on the whole, I thought we looked good. I think we could do with being a bit more clinical, a bit braver. First game of the season, it's always hard to say, isn't it? You're a little bit cagey in front of the home fans. The pressure's all on the result. And I think ultimately, first day, you want to get the result. And we did. So what more can we say? That's a positive.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things you said there about the reaction to the game and the way that it really did feel quite negative after that game, even though we basically coasted through. And I guess that is part of the comments is we coasted through and we could have finished them off. And I know that has happened before last season where we let teams back into it, put ourselves under pressure, and that's something we really have to, especially at home, something we really need to start quieting down. But similar to that reaction, Havertz, I feel like, got a quite negative reaction, even though I thought he was solid in the midfield, as you said, kept things ticking over. A real solid, nothing overly special, just kept things ticking over in the midfield, does what he needed to do. It didn't feel like he had anything close to a negative performance, so I was quite surprised seeing the reactions to that.
I think a lot of fans just don't watch the game because obviously for Chelsea he's playing up top as a false nine, and they talk about missed chances. He was playing like a deep line centre mid for us, so the fact that people expect him to have scored a hat-trick or something I find very confusing. But I guess that's typical Arsenal fans, isn't it? That there's always a kind of bulk of the fan base that just...
It's emotions, isn't it? Emotions sometimes do override your analytical mind frame. And that is what you tend to see happen within your own fan base. I'm sure it's not isolated just to Arsenal fans. That's just what we directly see. But I think Palace, another chance for 3 points this weekend. It is away. Not always been the nicest place to go, Selhurst Park. So it'll be, we'll see. We'll talk again next week about how Arsenal have been getting on. But just to round out the podcast, shall we have a little discuss about FPL? Do you reckon?
If we must. Yeah.
Those reactions there.
We both had a good week. You just had a slightly better week, annoyingly.
Differentials, my G. Differentials.
Yeah, differentials.
Your boy, bastard. Alexander Isak, turned against
my own son has killed me. He stabbed me in the back. My boy Isak.
Sudden death, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Been raving about him for years, and he goes and scores 13 points for you. So that's brilliant. But yeah, so you picked up 90 points yourself. I was on 82. So we're top two in the mini league we've got, which has 5 people in. So we both done relatively well. Obviously, Haaland's captain always brings points in. But yeah,
the league we're in,
edge it.
Yeah, the league we're in is rivaling the Scottish Premier League with how many teams are in it, to be fair.
It's big. It's huge.
I would take Lovies actually over Rangers any day of the week.
It's got to be done. Thoughts for next game week then? We're not going to give away all our secrets, but any early transfers for you? Did you get cold?
I was going to say, well, I'll give you a couple of secrets. Not making any transfers. I'm bringing in Douglas Luiz, starting him over Eze. Just feels like, despite my prediction, that Villa-Everton game has more potential for points for Luiz than the Arsenal game does for Eze. Cue Eze scoring a hat-trick. Touch wood. And
Hope so.
we're going to leave Stones on the bench. I don't think, even though he is listed as fit, I don't think he's going to play.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave him out for now.
Saw his price actually dropped, so obviously a lot of people got rid of Stones now. Obviously, he's the one defender you think would start every game for Pep, but as FPL tends to do, it never goes the way we plan it to.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's a
I'm
joy.
not disaster yet. Not get rid of him yet. Once he's back fully fit, I reckon he'll be straight back in that squad.
Yeah.
But the defence
Yeah,
I've got
same
in
here.
there, I like their fixtures anyway. We've got Estupinian playing
Yeah.
Wolves, Saliba playing Palace, James playing West Ham. I think even
Yeah,
if Stones
got the
is
left end
fit,
back free.
there we go,
Got the left end
beautiful.
back free.
Do you know one thing I'm tempted to do at the minute, Kiers, before we jump onto your team? I'm
What's that?
very, very tempted to put Matt Turner in goal instead of Ederson.
Do it. Let's
That's
go,
good.
dog. It's a dog
Fuck
fight
is
out
that?
there.
Oh, well, give me a second there, Kiers.
Oh. This interruption is brought to you by an air raid at Connor's flat. Let's hope he's not had to evacuate.
Okay, we are back. Well, to you listening, may not feel like we've been away, but as Kieran heard, I felt like I was transported back to the Blitz there. The big siren, you may have heard like a brief little clip of there. The fire alarm went off here. It was all kicking off. There were lights are flashing. It's now been turned off. There's no more fires. We're all safe.
Yeah, thankfully alive and kicking, I hope.
We're alive and kicking. I think the gods and the fates wanted me to stop talking about my superior fantasy team. So, kids, you want to round us up with yours before we officially get out of here?
Let's do it. Yeah, briefly then. I did make one transfer, so I've gone early, but I've taken out Enciso of Brighton because he didn't start. He came
Your
on for
South
literally a
American
minute.
wonder kid.
My South American wonder kid, he's let me down. I just think with Brighton, they've got a lot of rotation options. Obviously, he's bound to come in and bang a hat-trick against Wolves on the weekend now. But to be honest, I had triple Brighton anyway, which I was a bit weary of. So I've brought in Mbuemo. Obviously,
Good
they're
shot.
away at Fulham. I fancy Brentford to win that. And obviously, he's on penalties as well. He scored against Spurs on the weekend, so it seemed like a bit of a no-brainer for me. So that, other than that, we're unchanged.
Fantastic. How are you feeling at the weekend? Decent points all last weekend, so you feeling okay going into this one?
I am. I'm going a bit rogue. I'm not captaining Haaland this weekend. I'm gonna
Okay.
keep a bit coy about who my captain is. But let's just say it's a bit of a left field option. So you'll soon see. But no Haaland captain this weekend for me.
Okay, I've been debating with the no Haaland as well, but whether I'll have the bottle or not, I'm not sure. We'll discuss next week. So we'll see how the
going
weekend
bold.
folds out there, kids. We'll be discussing all the revelations and turnouts and goings on next Thursday when we see each other again. So before we finish, Kieran, what song do you want to pick? Because you won.
Well, on the back of my momentous victory, I think there had to be a song related to the Lionesses' success. So I'm going to go with Vindaloo because it's just a banger.
Vindaloo?
Good vibes. Vindaloo.
That well-known Lionesses following song, Vindaloo.
Well, not necessarily Lionesses, but just England football as a whole. It's just an English football classic.
Okay, kids. We'll go with it.
so-
We'll go with it.
Vindaloo.
I don't have
Vindaloo is
the
the
time
selection.
to argue on behalf of the Lionesses there. And I guess I'm not really allowed to after that disgrace earlier on. Okay. Best of luck to the Lionesses this weekend. Hopefully we're continuing positive talks next week. Thank you, Kieran, for joining me as always.
You're very welcome, and try not to get too pissed up at the game that you can't see it, but afterwards, go wild. Celebrations galore.
Not a single promise in sight. They're trying to strike me down already, so we'll have to steer clear till Sunday. But thank you very much, kids. I'll speak to you next week. I'll see you then. So long. Goodbye.
Kick it.